Have you ever wondered how some people make eating healthy, exercise, and managing stress look so easy? You can too. Welcome to Wellness Wisdom, where we uncover the secrets to lasting health and happiness and empower you to make wise health choices, see results, and create a healthy lifestyle for good. Join Camille Kennard, licensed social worker, certified health and wellness coach, a self-care specialist on the journey to explore how to make health and well-being possible for you. It's a health and wellness journey you can take together. Please welcome your host, Camille Kennard.
Hi, everybody, and happy December. I love this time of the month, this time of the year. It's just beautiful, and we get to really focus on time with friends and family. And we're going to also talk about our health, which is, as you know, this podcast is all about how can we take better care of ourselves, our mind and our body. And I'm really excited for what I have for you guys today. My guest, Wade Lightheart, is here from Venice Beach, California. He officially moved there. Welcome, Wade, to the podcast.
That's the first time I've been announced as from Venice Beach, California. I just moved here yesterday, so I like the ring.
It sounds good, doesn't it? You moved from Canada, right? Eastern Canada?
No, Vancouver.
Vancouver, that's right. Western Canada. Cool. So I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about Wade. He's got a lot of really great things, and I'm really excited. You guys are going to hear about natural bodybuilding. He's a natural bodybuilding champion. He's competed as a vegetarian for Mr. Universe. He's also the host of the Awesome Health podcast, and he's one of the world's premier authorities on natural nutrition and training methods. So he's majored in sports science at the University of New Brunswick, and he's authored numerous books on health, nutrition, and exercise, which have sold in 80 countries. He serves on the advisory board for the American Anti-Cancer Institute and is the co-founder and director of education at BiOptimizers, a digestive health company, which we'll be talking a lot about that and what he does there. He's been in the health industry for 25 years and coached thousands of clients, and he's sought out by athletes and high-performance-oriented individuals worldwide for his advice on how to optimize their health and their fitness levels and how to feel more alive. He's traveled all over the world helping people with their wellness and just quality of life, right? That's kind of what it's all about, is we want to take care of our health so we can do the things we want to do, right? 100%. So Wade, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. I know we connected just through online, which is amazing, that you were able to find my podcast. But I mentioned to you that, a lot of my listeners are struggling with how do they take care of their health when they're so busy, when there's so many things going on in their lives. And there's so much information out there about what to eat, what not to eat, what to do with your health and what not to do. And as a person who's been in the health and wellness field for many years, I'd love for you to share with us what it was that got you really interested in health and wellness and what your story is.
Sure. I'll try and be as brief as possible. So I was a kid that grew up on the east coast of Canada, which is New Brunswick, which is next to Maine. And it's kind of cold and very rural, that sort of thing. Anyways, life was pretty normal, played hockey, did sports like most Canadian kids. And then when I was 15 years old, three things happened to me in a very short span that really changed the course and trajectory of my life. My parents moved to I was in a rural area, but they moved to an extremely rural. And what I mean by extremely rural, it was 5 miles to my nearest neighbor up and the telephone poles in the road. Dirt road. Sometimes it wouldn't be plowed for days. I'd have to take a snowmobile out to get to the bus, and it was an hour bus ride each way to school. So I had a lot of time. I was removed from my friends and my normal community and all that sort of social structure. So it gave me a lot of times to think and reflect. And although I didn't like it, I think it did give me some observational and reflection skills that I've been able to leverage ever since. Second thing that happened at that time, and this is all like in a very compressed period of time. My sister, who was 4 years my senior, was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, which is a form of cancer of the lymph nodes. And over the course of the next 4 years, I watched her go through the medical model before she died at the untimely age of 22 years old.
Oh, wow.
So that had a huge impact on me because I realized that, and she was an athlete and all these type of things, very good athlete. And I realized that your health isn't a guarantee and your life isn't a guarantee. And so it took me maybe 10 years to realize the impact of that. And then the third thing was around the same time, she had given me a bodybuilding magazine, Muscle and Fitness. And on the cover, it had Troy Zuclato, who just won Mr. California with these two pretty girls. And I was like, being 15 years old and you're kind of going out of your mind with testosterone at that age. You're
yes.
like, oh, maybe if I get these muscles, I'll get the pretty girl. So I bought the Joe Weider lie and built a gym in my barn, kind of like the old Rocky movies.
Yeah.
And I had sawhorses and pulleys with plates I would put on it and a little bench press and a chin-up bar and a two-wheeler under the tractor tires, the whole 9 yards. And I began training and I began reading magazines and listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and who in his book, Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding or Education of a Bodybuilder, he said, you can achieve anything with hard work, self-discipline, and a positive attitude. Now, where I was from, we talked about hard work, but we never talked about a positive attitude and self-discipline. Though these were new concepts to me, and I resonated with him. And, of course, he was famous and had won all these Mr. Universes, and he was, in the movies, and he was just the embodiment of what anybody would imagine for success at the time. And I was like, okay, I'm in. This is what I'm doing. And literally that translated into going to university, studying exercise physiology, where I got I would call my basics of understanding of physiology. The challenge with university was it was a bunch of information. It wasn't put into any kind of system. And so at that point I realized, well, I've done my 4 years here, but I don't think that I'm really qualified to do anything specifically. I have a lot of information, but I don't know how to apply it. So what I did is I started looking for mentors who were producing extraordinary results in the health or fitness field, and began to go after them and to learn from them, to mentor under them, and to learn what they were doing and how they were doing that. And some of that was actually one-on-one stuff. Some of that was group mentorship, and some of that was just through books. The internet wasn't really available in those days. And so we had to get it, secondhand, third-hand information. But that was my start. And, that led me after 16 years to go to the Mr. Universe contest, represent our country. But the thing is after that contest, I gained 42 pounds of fat and water in 11 weeks. So I went from Mr. Universe to Mr. Marshmallow. And I was like, wow, how's this happen? At that point, I put in 16 years of training. I had the best coach in the world. I had Spartan discipline. I had a great attitude. I did everything I was supposed to. And here I was, and ended up as a physical wreck. And I went to a fellow I met, Dr. Michael O'Brien, and he was in his 70s, and he had clear skin and eyes that could look through, and he was so vibrant and so strong, and just a model of health. You couldn't imagine that he was at the age he was. It was really phenomenal. And I asked him, I said, what did I do wrong? Like, how did I get this wrong? I thought I'm doing everything right. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And he said, well, Wade, you've learned to build the body from the outside in. Haven't learned to build the body from the inside out. And that stuck with me. And literally, I engaged in what he suggested to rebuild my inside, which involved a variety of different things. And we can talk about that in a minute. But within 6 months, not only did I recapture my physique, I wasn't suffering from the normal things that bodybuilders suffer from when they're competing. I didn't have the joint pain. I didn't have the brain fog. I wasn't tired. My muscles didn't hurt. My joints didn't hurt. I felt fantastic. And over the course of the next 4 years, my co-founder of BiOptimize is Matt Gallant, we were both personal trainers. We developed a company to start educating athletes all around the world about how to build muscles without using drugs in a healthy way. And that later on turned into BiOptimizers as we know it today. So we've been in business literally for 15 years, helping people fix people from the inside out.
I love that. So it kind of started with you as you were wanting to build your muscle, improve your performance. Also kind of, it sounds like having your sister who was an athlete die at a young age was like, well, what's going on here? How can we help people be healthier for a longer period of time?
Well, exactly, because, and I approached it very naive. I thought, hey, if you look fit, if you have muscles or you have low body fat or everything looks good, maybe you're healthy. And it took 16 years to expose the fact that that's not the case. In fact, a lot of people that we idolize today, whether it's movie stars or fitness people or models on covers of magazines, are actually compromising their health to look a certain way. And that doesn't have to be. It's oftentimes a shorter route, but it has unforeseen consequences.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to recognize, is that I think sometimes we're so focused on the look, right? Instead of it being, what am I actually healthy inside? People can have high cholesterol and be thin. They can have all kinds of health problems, right? That way. So I love that's something that propelled you to want to, help other people to actually have their cells be healthy, right? Have their body be healthy. So, I love your story, and I think it's really important for people to know that, yeah, it does take discipline, but it also takes knowledge of knowing what to do with your body and how to help your body, because most of our bodies, they're not exactly the same, but some of the same principles apply, right? Of putting living food into your body. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that and about gut health as we go throughout this conversation. So we're going to just take a little quick break, but when we get back, I'd love for you to talk to us a little bit more about BiOptimizers, what you guys do with the gut, the gut-brain connection, with, helping people improve their digestion and those kinds of things. I'd love for you to chat with us about that.
Do you feel stressed, overweight, and unhappy? Are you tired of setting goals that you don't accomplish? Do you want more energy, motivation, and focus to create your dreams? Many people struggle to keep up the commitment, motivation, and confidence to be successful, to reach their goals and aspirations. They often let other things get in the way of their personal health and happiness. It doesn't have to be this way. You can change. Join us for a 6-week online health transformation workshop. Learn about the mind-body connection, overcome obstacles to health, create daily health rituals, get support from others like you, and change your life for good. Register now at flourishwellnessconsulting.com under online group workshops, or email Camille at flourishwellnessconsulting.com. Our gift to you as a podcast listener is $50 off the transformation workshop. Use the promo code podcast50 when you register. This year, make peace with your body and like who you are for good.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wellness Wisdom. We're chatting today, and I love this conversation about fitness, right? There's a lot of people out there that they look at this certain body, this physique, and that's what they want to be. They want to look this certain way. And I'm talking to Wade Lightheart today, who actually was Mr. Universe. He was a bodybuilder and competed, but he did this through having a nutrition that was vegetarian, a vegetarian diet. And I'm really excited for him to tell us a little bit more about that. And how what we put into our body makes a difference in how we feel, not only how we look. Of course, we want to look like we're healthy, but not focusing on just the look, but are we actually making our cells healthier? Are we improving our longevity? Are we improving how we live and the energy we have and all of that? So Wade, I would love for you to share with us a little bit more about what you do at BiOptimizers to help people. Tell us a little bit more about, gut health for people that maybe don't understand it. I know it's a big word out there. Everyone needs to be having probiotics, and, there's so much hype out there about what to eat, what not to eat. I would love for you to kind of talk to us a little bit about how do we know what to do with our bodies? Like, how does someone know?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's a couple of caveats that I think people get themselves into trouble. Number one, they identify with a specific diet or a specific icon or avatar or character. In other words, I'll see people who are naturally larger want to be a tiny, model who's 6 feet tall and is a classic ectomorph, but they might be an endomorphic person, and they set themselves up by trying to achieve something that's really not designed for their body. Second thing is, a lot of people will identify with a particular diet style because maybe it produced results over a period of time, but without specific testing, oftentimes they're setting themselves up for another failure. And every diet has advantages and disadvantages, and understanding those and having the proper testing protocols. I think that's a couple areas. And the third area where people make some challenges is short-term thinking, trying to take shortcuts with their health. In other words, how many times have you heard someone, look, I've got a wedding coming up, I've got a reunion coming up, I got to get in shape, I've got to drop 10 or 20 or 30 pounds, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to do it. But the reality is, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people go for that, number one, set an unrealistic goal, or number two, make that goal, but that set themselves up for a metabolic failure, very much like I did when I was competing and stuff. And so I warn people about, hey, you know what? Don't get caught in these rigid positions. And I did, and I experienced it, and I understand the dynamics. And that's why I put that out there. The final thing is, you know, again, just because something worked for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But let's talk about the specifics you're referring to. And that is foods and diets and everything and what works and stuff. But I want to make something very important to understand. Regardless of the diet you're following, it's a single canal from your mouth to your anus. Mm-hmm. And that means when you eat food, it's not inside your body. It's inside the tube. And there is a specific process that allows you to digest, absorb, and utilize the nutrients from your food. And the reality is everybody's digestive system is in a different state. And almost no one has a perfectly working digestive system. And that's largely in part because over the last 60 or 70 years, humans had this great accomplishments, particularly in industrialized worlds. And that is that we developed mass food production and food distribution. Now, prior to that, starvation or disease through nutrient deficiency was quite common throughout history and caused the death of millions and millions of people throughout human history. So we solved that with modern agriculture, monoculture programming, and food distribution, which use preservatives, which use heating, which use all these different methods. The problem was, what we didn't anticipate is that we've changed the food supply radically, and that's altered our digestive systems and how we absorb, utilize the food that we are consuming. And this directly correlates to how well someone can maintain their weight or lose weight or gain weight on any particular problem. It also is the contributing factor to disease. Get this, this is a shocking statistic. 12% of the emergency hospital visits today are gastrointestinal related illnesses. 25% of the population is taking some sort of medication, prescription medication, over-the-counter medication for digestive health issues. And a third of the population is suffering from some sort of digestive condition, whether it's heartburn, acid reflux, gas, bloating, constipation, all of these things. And this is considered normal. And it's not normal, and it's a sign. Anytime you're having these kind of symptoms in your life, it's a sign that something's not right with your diet or something is not right with how your body is digesting the food that you're eating. And oftentimes it's a symptom of both.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So your diet determines how you feel. It determines what you look like. People go on diets, right? Saying they're only going to eat certain things and not other things. This time of the year, you know, with the holidays, like you say, sometimes people just say, forget it, I'm going to eat whatever I want. Or they decide they're going to diet in the new year. I love what you're talking about, which is, this is actually really about a lifestyle and what works for the human body, what works for our body. Can you tell us a little bit more about like the digestive process and why what we put in the body makes a difference? Why does it matter if I eat a hot dog versus a carrot or celery or, you know?
Great question. So I'm going to give you a little lesson on digestive in layman's terms. So basically there's 5 basic stages to digestion. That is, the first phase is where you taste, touch, smell the food, which actually your body starts taking in information. That's why we oftentimes have a salivary response. Your body starts to actually produce enzymes. For example, if I talk about dill pickles and mustard, oftentimes people will get a little response in their body because just the sound of it, let alone the smell of it. Mm-hmm. So our body starts to take in that information. That's why packaging is so rich in colors. Humans developed colored vision in order to recognize ripe fruit. This is an ancestral development, and to identify snakes. Those two things, because oftentimes snakes would be in trees and those type of things. So, unlike carnivores, which don't have color vision, we do, which is very interesting in its own component. So when the food comes in, whatever the food that you're eating, you start chewing it, or masticating it. That's the technical term. And that starts crunching up and breaking the food into smaller and smaller bits. The food then travels down the esophagus. That's the tube going from your mouth to your stomach. And inside, when it gets to your intestinal or your stomach, there is not a big bowl of acid sitting there to break it down, as a lot of people might think. You've got about 30 to 60 minutes before hydrochloric acid will actually come in to start accelerating that. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, here's the thing. Here's where the first problem comes in. Every species on the planet eats its food in a raw, uncooked state. And that is because there are enzymes present. And it'll probably be hard for dolphins to start a fire. But the reality is, if I'm a tiger and I'm hungry in the morning and I go out and knock down a zebra, I'm going to open up the zebra, take the entrails where the enzymes and probiotics are first before I eat the carcass. If I'm a bear and I go out in the morning and I either go find a blueberry patch or I find a salmon in the river, I eat those in a raw state and I get all the enzymes present. Any animal product, when it dies, has an enzyme called cathispin that gets activated and helps break the food down. If I'm a horse or I'm a cow, and I'm going to go out and eat grass, I'm going to find the richest sprouts that I can find, or the greenest grass I can get, because it has the most enzymes inside it. It has the most life force. Enzymes are the difference between the living and the dead. Now, we cook our food, we process our food, we sterilize our food, and anytime we cook things over 114 degrees, we eliminate all the enzymes. We kill it all. Mm-hmm. We create dead food, or if we cook it, for example. Now, what happens is those enzymes are supposed to be breaking down that food in that first 30 to 60 minutes. Then what happens, and so oftentimes we don't have enough, and our body has to manufacture its own enzymes, convert its enzyme production into creating digestive enzymes. And that's why humans have a pancreas that is 3.5 times the size of any other species relative to body weight. Kind of interesting. So we've actually adapted to this component. Now, to produce enzymes has a huge metabolic cost, and that's why we just had Thanksgiving dinner. How many had a plate or two and had all the vegetables and the turkey or whatever, and then you went on and had another piece of grandma's apple pie after, or whatever it was, and then what happens? Now, do you go out and run a marathon? Do you go out and chop wood? Do you go out and lift weights? No. You make a dash for the couch, the chair, the floor, and you pass out and drool's coming out of your face and all that sort of stuff, right? Why? If you just ate all these calories and you got all this food, why shouldn't you have all this energy? Because you're taking all of your enzymatic potential. You're taking it from your brain. You're taking it from your muscles. You're taking it from your organs, and you're reconstituting it and using it to break down the food. And that means you're not healing your body. You're spending all your energy to digest the food, which is actually unnatural. The enzyme should have been present in it in the first place, but it's not. Now, second, the next phase of digestion, hydrochloric acid comes into the body. Now, hydrochloric acid has 2 distinct components. Number 1, it is the first line of defense against bacteria, against parasites, against viruses. It kills those things. Now, guess what? If you don't have enough hydrochloric acid, what happens when you eat food is when the hydrochloric acid builds up, the esophageal sphincter will close. at the top of that, where the food came in at the top, it closes. If there's not enough acid present in the food, it stays open, and some of the acid will splash up and create heartburn and acid reflux. But if you go to the doctor, they provide you an antacid. And the reality is, when you do that, now you open yourself up for bacteria infections, viruses, parasitical infections, all of these things. And if you look at the medical literature, you're only supposed to be on an antacid, like a proton pump, for example, for 3 to 6 weeks. And I have met countless amount of people who have been on it for years, because the medical system is not in the business of treating diseases. They treat the symptoms. So they make the symptoms go away, but it's up to us to actually deal with the cause. So the other thing about hydrochloric acid, it changes the pH of the food. And when it changes the pH of the food, what that means is some enzymes will become deactivated and some will become activated at the various pH ranges. Once that chime has been all built up and mashed out, the food will leave the stomach. And now when it leaves the stomach, your body will release what's called bicarbonate buffers. Now, these are just a fancy name for alkaline minerals. And that buffers the acid, because that stomach acid, your stomach is designed to have this high acid. And your stomach acid is like, it's even more acidic than battery acid. And the problem is if you don't have enough minerals in the body, then that's when you get gastritis. That's when you get ulcers, because you start burning little holes in your intestinal tract because something else is off in your digestive system. Now we go into the next stage of digestion, or the fourth stage of digestion. And in this stage, this is where the bacteria are going to break down the food into the final stage in order that it'll cross the intestinal barrier and you can utilize it either for energy units or for building blocks. Okay? So just to put all that in perspective, in your intestinal tract, you have literally somewhere between 5 and 10 times the amount of bacteria compared to cells in your body. Without these bacteria, you would be dead. Now, the thing is, there's 10% good, 10% bad, and 80% opportunists. Oftentimes when we travel abroad, we get exposed to different bacteria, different viruses, different stuff, and people will get stomach illness or can't eat the food or whatever. It's largely in part because you're getting exposed to a bunch of organisms that you don't know how to handle at this point. You get used to your local environment. Your body adjusts to it. So that's the next phase. And so the problem is, in our society, we've used a lot of kind of this antibiotic mentality. So antibiotics came out and saved millions and millions of people. One of the reasons for the big population growth is because we learned how to use antibiotics, and they've saved millions of lives. Most of us are here today because of that. The problem is the overexposure or the overprescription of antibiotics for everything has built bacteria-resistant strains. And that's why when you go to the hospital, I have a friend who's he's a surgeon and from Harvard, and he put the first stent in the body. So he said, it's interesting how much surgery has come over the last, in the course of the last 40, 50 years in his career. And he said, but what's interesting is today, the biggest threat, he says, people don't die from the surgeries most often. He says that the biggest threat is they die from an infection from the surgery, so because of these resistant strains of bacteria. And then the final stage is peristaltic contraction, which is a fancy name for muscular movement of smooth muscle tissue, takes the waste product of the food and eliminates it from the body. Now, here's the thing. The average 40-year-old has less than 30% of the enzymes that they had at birth. They have less than 30% of the hydrochloric acid that they had at birth. And guess what? Their bacterial ratios are so mismatched from antibacterial everything, the lack of consuming fresh vegetables, which, you pull it out of the garden, you brush the dirt off, you get the bacteria that comes with that vegetable, that would go in the system. You get silica in the system. You get the enzymes. Nobody eats that. Even if you're eating fresh food from the grocery store, oftentimes it's been irradiated. The enzymes have been limited. It's been ultra cleaned, probably with chlorine that has all sorts of negative side effects to humans. It's a great disinfectant, but it's not the best inside the body, particularly for women because it interrupts thyroid production. Or you come home and you cook it all anyways, and you don't get any of that stuff in a living state. So what happens is we've actually moved away from the natural diet for humans quite radically in the last 60 to 7 years. Not to mention, we've got one more thing to throw on top of this. We've added herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides to our crops to grow. Now, those work, they kill bugs by interrupting the enzymatic activity of that organism. Now, enzymes run everything in your body, from thinking to blinking. There's over 25,000 different chemical reactions that we know of. The difference between stones, plants, and people is enzymes, the living and the dead. So this is the bridge between the living and the dead. And there's two things that do work in your body, enzymes and probiotics. And the reality is, having the right probiotics and enzymes inside your body regularly, because we should have been regularly consuming this, will allow you to operate, digest, absorb, and utilize the food that you're eating. It'll help you avoid getting the gas, the bloating, the acid reflux, and the constipation, and will allow you to get more out of your diet, have more energy because you're preserving your natural enzyme production, and you're balancing your probiotic levels so that you can live long and live strong.
So a lot of the reasons why we're not able to digest our food is because we're not getting the enzymes that we need, which come from those natural foods, right? The food that comes from the earth. I always say, if you want to be alive, eat living food. If you want to be dead, eat dead foods, right? So I love that you were talking about, well, our soil's depleted. You know, there's the pesticides and all of that that's in the food. So our bodies are having a tough time with trying to break down everything because is that right? Because we're not getting the enzymes that would break down the food and help our body naturally function the way that it should.
Yeah, 3 areas. Not enough enzymes, low hydrochloric acid, and a dysbiosis or disbalance of the bacteria inside our guts. Those are the 3 major areas where people's digestion goes off. And then it can get worse because then you add things like glyphosates that increase leaky gut syndrome, people that have all sorts of response to grains and breads and things like that contain gluten. Oftentimes those gluten products are high in glyphosates, which has all sorts of negative side effects. Plus the other chemicals that interrupt enzymatic bacteria or destroy their own bacteria, or they take a course of antibiotics for whatever reason and they don't reconstitute their bacteria strains. All of a sudden, they start gaining weight rapidly. They're bloated all the time, or they have acid reflux and they don't know why. And you can't medicate your way out of it. Now, you can add supplements to assist yourself, but I always say you can't supplement your way out of a good diet, out of a bad diet. So what needs to happen is a person needs to address the dietary issues, address the enzymatic, the hydrochloric acid, and the probiotic deficiencies. And if you do both of those consistently over a period of time, you will be able to reclaim your body, because your body always wants to operate perfectly. It's designed to do that. And if it's not, it's something that we're doing that is messing us up. Plain and simple, we have to take all the accountability for yourself. And these symptoms that we feel is just feedback from our bodies telling us, hey, pay attention, you're doing something wrong, let's get some fixing. And so it's my job to go out and educate people because I'm very passionate about this. I had to fix my own digestion, and we've been doing that all around the world for the last 15 years, correcting people's digestive health. So what did it do for you when you changed your digestion? Tell me about that. Like, what was going on for you? I know you said you were when you were a bodybuilder, you'd feel fatigue, you wouldn't feel like the energy that you needed. Kind of what was going on at that point? Great question. So one of the traditional components when you're dieting for a bodybuilding competition, and keep in mind, that's what I call cosmetic fitness. Right. You are developing a level of fitness that I do not believe is healthy, but has certain cosmetic appeals. When you get into single-digit body fat percentages, oftentimes it has health consequences, nervous system consequences, brain consequences and stuff. And so that's what I got to after 16 years. And I had the best coach in the world, I had Spartan discipline, did everything I was supposed to do, but that's where it led me. When I got on using enzymes and probiotics and hydrochloric acid and minerals and natural foods and all these sort of things that I was doing, well, guess what? Not only did I get my digestion back, but my brain switched on. I used to wake up with brain fog or have trouble concentrating. That cleared up in short order. Next thing, I took about an hour off my sleep where I felt more refreshed with less sleep than I had before. My joint pain went away. The aches in my muscles went away. I recovered from my workouts better. And literally, I tested this with over 15,000 athletes around the world back then. And we got reports from all over the world, all sorts of different types of dietary programs, all sorts of different genetics and epigenetics and ages and everything else. And people just rebuilt their lives. And it was so fun and so excellent. And it was so enlightening. And here's what you get. You get more energy. You get more energy out of the food. You eat less, but digest and absorb more. And you eliminate the waste product better. And so people that have, we live in a society that's chronically constipated. And, it just all goes away. And it's pretty neat that is possible if you do the right things in your life.
Well, like you said, our body wants to heal itself. If we give it the right environment, the body can heal itself. So tell me about what was it that you did? What did you change? It sounds like taking enzymes, probiotics.
Yeah.
What did you change in your diet? How did you...
Right. So the first, my coach my Dr. O'Brien, my mentor, said to me right off the bat, eliminate, this is pretty extreme. I eliminated all cooked food. I ate a completely raw food diet. It was supposed to be for 90 days. I didn't let off the gas for 2 years. I stayed on a raw food diet for 2 years. Not suggesting people do that. I'm just saying that's what happened for me. I wanted to see where this was going. I was always into experimenting with diets. So that was the first thing. Number two, I took large quantities of enzymes and probiotics and hydrochloric acid during that period of time. It's not hydrochloric acid at that time. I discovered that later. And I took specific minerals for my body. And that's where I started. Now, today we have a lot better testing available for people. That wasn't as sophisticated then. I just followed it. What I can say, though, is if most people do on a consistent every 90 days, they eat whole natural foods, they use enzymes and probiotics and a little bit of hydrochloric acid, almost anybody can recover from whatever digestive condition they have, right? The other thing that happened is my skin cleared up. I got really, really, that seemed to happen. And my cognitive function, I was able to process things much faster with my brain, remember things that I would forget. It was quite dramatic because, again, your diet impacts your brain function. Your diet impacts your skin. Your skin is the largest organ. That's a great sign. That's one of the reasons why we celebrate healthy skin, is because it's a sign of health. And that is an indicator that this is a good person to replicate with. And that's what drives a lot of our behaviors and actions inside us. We're just kind of sophisticated monkeys.
I love that. So I think, skin clearing up, feeling better, digestion, energy. Who wouldn't want all of this? I mean, really, that sounds like the optimal health, what we all would be wanting and searching for. So why is it that people aren't changing their health? Why is it that people aren't doing these things?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, there's a great book by Eric Schlosser, who wrote a book called Fast Food Nation. And I would encourage people to go back and look at those, remember the Kodak photos, the Polaroid pictures and all that sort of stuff of people in the 70s. I always noticed how thin people looked in the 70s. Everybody looked thin. Well, in the 1970s, there was down the New Jersey Turnpike, and I'll summarize this, but this has happened. Eric goes into detail about it. A lot of the big food companies and processors and distributors realized, it was really hard to get people to eat different types of foods. But if they put a variety of chemicals into food, flavoring agents, they would eat more of that food. And so what happened is they started getting bigger sizes. They started getting foods that were more addictive, that didn't have any satiety factor. Satiety is built into natural foods. There's if you're eating blueberries, you can get all the blueberries you want. There gets a certain point you just don't want any more blueberries. Yeah. Or potatoes or celery or all these natural foods or nuts or whatever. But if you add some chemical agents to it, if you had some things that mimic essential nutrients, but actually, accelerate deficiency. If you add things that alter how our brain interprets them, thinking that it's one thing and not the other, then you can create massive consumption of the foods that you sell. And we saw the rise in sizes. Had those little tiny cans of Coke back in the day and the little tiny bags of chips. Now you go to Price Club, they got a sack of chips that you carry out. They got a jug of pop. And you kind of go out
super size it, right?
Super size everything. There's a great movie, Super Size Me, about all that. And so we developed a culture of excess, a culture of more. Now, see, that was a mechanism. If you could eat more food when you were younger, or in generations prior, you had a higher chance of living. If you had an ability to store body fat, that was an advantage. Now, today, that has reversed. People, obesity rates, the health challenges of obesity are well documented. Everything from cancer, heart disease, diabetes, you name it, and a variety of other conditions. But that was an advantage in the past. And still many cultures today that are less industrialized see fat as a sign of success, a sign of attractiveness. Where in Western culture, it's funny that that's seen as not good. And now we shame people into how they look. We guilt people. People feel insecure about themselves and all these things that we didn't have before the internet, before mass marketing, before mass food production. So what's happened is we've changed the environment. And I believe that environment is stronger than will. Okay? So if you're around a group of people and everybody's fit in that group of people, guess what? If you stay in that group over time, you will get fit. You will start exercising. You will start eating the foods of those people. If you're around everybody where it's okay to be overweight, it's okay to kind of go crazy at, the Las Vegas food bar when you're out gambling and drinking stuff, you just do it. Or how many times do we get in and like, I'm going to go home for Christmas, right? Now, my family, they're not into this stuff, okay? They're just, family's always the toughest. So when I go home, I'm the weird one, right?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And I literally have to create an environment. So what I do is I kind of diet myself down a little bit extra before the holidays so I can lose a little, so I can go to those social occasions and say, grandma leans on me and I go, okay, I'll have a cookie, or okay, I'll have some chips and stuff. And so I've learned to survive those environments where before I had to be extremely rigid. And, I got into all sorts of fights with my family members and probably made a lot of people angry. And I'm trying to do repentance on that now. So, environment stronger than will. So you need to put yourself in an environment. And then the final piece on that is the habits. It's super easy to flip on the television and mindlessly eat a bag of chips. I always share with people, here's a little experiment. You can go do this. Go to the movie theaters. Go to a movie that you don't want to watch. Sit in the back row and watch everybody in the movie theater. Now, they're eating these giant pops and giant popcorns and family size candy and stuff like that. Now, you'll see as the tension builds up in the movie, everybody's kind of like this. And the second the tension builds, what happens is everybody starts eating and drinking.
Emotional eating.
So you now start anchoring emotions with the eating right there. And this is happening in front of the television. This is happening in front of the things. And even to this day, I go to the movie theaters, I want popcorn. I do. I want popcorn.
It's a habit, right? It's a cultural habit.
It's a cultural habit. If I'm watching the hockey game or the football game with my dad, what does my dad do? He goes and gets the big bag of chips. And I always have some of those chips, right? I always do. I can't help myself. It's like somebody switches a switch in my head and I become an automaton. I go, well, isn't this interesting? But here's the experiment. Go take one of those giant pops in the movie theater and the popcorn. So the day that you watch this, go buy that stuff and go outside the movie theater, sit on a bench and try eating that bag of popcorn. You probably won't
Can't do it.
It doesn't taste that great. It's not that good. It's not that good. But because we're conditioned, we'll sit there and wolf the whole thing down, not even thinking about it while we're watching the television. And we're anchoring emotional-based eating. So guess what? The next time you have a fight with your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend, the next time you feel tension at work because something didn't go right or something wrong, or maybe you had some personal challenges in life or whatever, what do?
Eat the carton of ice cream.
Exactly. And, and then you get done, you go, why did I do this? Mm-hmm. There's a reason that food advertisers advertise their products during sporting events, during news things, because they are associating their products with that sport. So if you watch NFL Super Bowl, it's the biggest show on earth, literally. And every commercial is for beer, it's for pizza, it's for trucks, whatever, right? It's all cooked into it. So you can watch these things and just observe and see how we become programmed to be dysfunctional.
Yes, I love everything you're talking about. And it's a big part of what I help people with, which is the mindful eating, really being present with your food and recognizing what you're doing in the moment. Like, food can be really enjoyable and nutritious and delicious to us, but a lot of times we get caught up in that mindless eating, especially the holidays or when there's stress or when there's emotional things going on. I would love for you to tell us just a little bit more about what BiOptimizers, what you guys do. Like, how do you help people eat healthier? Because you could say to people, oh, go eat more vegetables, but a lot of people don't know how to cook them. They don't like them. They don't know what to do. How do you guys help people with that?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking. First and foremost, Matt and I, who started the company, started out as personal trainers and nutritionists. We love helping people. We never lost that, and that was always our mandate from first. So our company educates people about what we call the awesome health lifestyle. And the awesome health lifestyle incorporates a couple of things. We have a triangle, like there is, on that triangle is performance, there's health, and there's cosmetics, or how you look. And those points of the triangle, right, or aesthetics, some people like to call it aesthetics. So those constitute the three areas that we're going to focus on any given time. And I think, sometimes you have to focus on one over the other for a period of time when you're developing. But we're always working on that. And we created a 12-week course. And inside that course, what I did is I compressed 35 years of health and fitness information into one systematized course. So I didn't invent all this stuff. I just compiled it into an easy component based on, because nobody has, or almost nobody has, unlimited resources on what they can buy or what they can do. So I developed it to what you focus on first, what you focus on second, what you focus on third. There's 7 basic pillars: air, water, exercise. Those 3, non-negotiable. You can't be healthy if you don't get your breathing right, if you don't get your water right, and you don't get your exercise right. 4th phase is sunlight, and I see sunlight which relates to circadian rhythm, which goes to sleep cycles. It also, I look at food as condensed light. Everything that you see we live in a solar system. It's just light vibrating at a different rate. And when it slows down enough, it becomes matter. Okay, that's really what it is. Einstein proved this a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then from there, we get to what I call optimizers. And we looked at what are the things that actually make the cell. We have 100 trillion cells in our body. What makes the cell work better? Because if you can get the cells to work better, the body does. And they come down to this: enzymes, probiotics, essential amino acids, essential fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, and then finally herbs. And herbs can be used specific for medicated conditions. It can be used for the development of drugs. Herbs can also be used for moving energy inside the body, as of Ayurvedic or Chinese medicine, which have been practiced for thousands of years. The last 2 things that people focus on is mental beliefs and attitudes. I always say if you got the right attitude, you can do anything. If you got the wrong attitude, it doesn't matter who you're working with, you're never going to get it. And then finally is education, testing, and coaching, or etc. The acronym pronounces awesome. And inside of that, what we do is we take people through a 12-week course. It's 5 to 15-minute videos. We actually give all the references to the people. It's not all my stuff. It's not all my company. It's like, oh, I found this, and this is something that worked for us, and this is something that's worked. And keep in mind, we've coached now well in excess of 50,000 people. And so we know we've tried a lot of different things, and we try to condense it to make it easy so people know where to spend their dollars. If you have a limited budget, what do I focus on first? And the interesting thing is 3 of those things are relatively inexpensive right off the bat: air, water, and exercise. And I would also add sun and sleep. you can kind of get those relatively easy as well. So the reality is, if you start doing those, the other things come easier. If you don't do those, you're probably not getting the most value out of your money. And that's where, in education, testing, and coaching, I always talk about the C, coaching. That's a very big component, because a coach is there to help you break the old habits and the old routines and help you cultivate an environment that will let you become successful when you are attempting to make a pattern interrupt or a pattern change in your life. Because if you are sick, if you are overweight, if you are unhealthy, if you are tired, if you are having challenges in your physical life or your mental life or your emotional life, it's because of the habits of how you think and what you do. And a coach is there to help you identify them, because sometimes I always say people can't help being what they are. We're not mad at what people are. We're mad at what people aren't. So it's like, why am I mad because somebody isn't like us? If they could be different, they would be. And that's where a coach comes in, because a coach is always looking to bring the best part of that person out. And in order to do that, you have to help them eliminate some of the things that are blocking them from their best self.
I love that. So it's really looking at the strengths that the person has and helping them notice what they can do to change those habits that they're in. So I'm curious. So you guys teach people, you educate them. Do you have specific products for them to take, or is it okay?
Yeah, we do. So one of the things that we found when, coaching thousands and thousands of people is almost everybody we dealt with had compromised digestion. Almost everybody. And again, that was because of the environment we live in here in the Western world. We do not eat a diet that is natural to humans. So we developed products and a program to help people rebuild their digestion so that they can get more out of their training program, their health regimen, out of their life period. And so we developed the most potent mass enzymes for the masses. So it's got 17 different enzymes, very high in protease, because undigested protein is very common to be a common element in disease and dysfunction and bloating and gas and all sorts of problems. We developed a super strain of probiotics, which basically the same principles that developed antibiotic resistant strains of bad bacteria. We subjected an aggressive strain of bacteria to an environmental condition, and we got a patent for it that made it antiviral, antiretroviral, proteolytic, digest tumors, and is maintainable in the gastrointestinal tract. I'm not saying it. The patent is saying that. We cultivated hydrochloric acid for people with low hydrochloric acid. We built another product called Gluten Guardian for people who can't digest or break down gluten. We developed ConstiCleanse, which was it's an herbal combination to get plaque, and if you're bound up, to get that out of the body. We developed a herbal parasite cleanse to eliminate parasites, which compromises people's health significantly. A lot of people don't know why they're so hungry or having challenges or having skin conditions or are tired all the time. It's because they got parasites, for Pete's sake, oftentimes because they had low hydrochloric acid. So we developed a whole suite of products that fixes digestion, and we've been doing that since 2004. And we developed the education system around it, because again, it's not just here's some supplements, go home. It's how do I take them? What are the things that I need to do? What is the lifestyle I need to cultivate? And for people who want to find out about it, they just go to BiOptimizers.com/wellness. There's literally $6,000 worth of coaching, and you get it for free. So no cost. You go to our site, BiOptimizers.com/wellness. And they'll get all that for free, and they can just look it up and see what they want. They can mix and match in this little 5 to 15 minute videos. You can watch them on your phone. What kind of water, what's the best exercise, how do I, grow a healthy garden, all kinds of really interesting stuff.
Oh, I love it. That sounds so great and so interesting. Kind of putting together all of those things, from what to do, how to do it, and what do you need to put into your life and into your diet. I love this. I think this is all so great. And for a lot of us, we do need that support. We do need a coach. That's why I do what I do, is people need someone to show them the way, to show them how things can be different, to help them change habits that they're in. We're going to take another quick break, but when we get back, I would love for you to share with us just a couple of things that you would have people do right now. I call it words of wisdom, just to start making some changes if they feel overwhelmed. Maybe they've struggled with trying to eat healthy. They don't like healthy food. Just a couple of things that people can do to start.
Have you ever had one of those days when you feel like you can't keep doing it all? When you feel like the demands of work, family, and life are just too much? Are you trying to make others happy, but you are miserable? Do you feel like your brain is constantly in a fog? Do you worry all the time and can't shut your brain off? Do you wish you had more time for yourself? Do you want to find more stillness and quiet your mind? Many women feel overwhelmed and stressed with the demands of family, work, and other responsibilities. It can literally push them over the edge. What if you could have a weekend away to dedicate to you, to your well-being and self-care, to eat healthy food, practice invigorating yoga, get calming massages, and spend time in quiet meditation with nature? Join Flourish Wellness for our Mindfulness in the Mountains Wellness Retreat. Learn to quiet the mind and to listen to your body and fill your soul with self-love and acceptance. Register now. Space is limited. To check out the cabin and accommodations and to register, go to flourishwellnessconsulting.com under live events or email Camille at flourishwellnessconsulting.com. This fall, make yourself a priority and learn to make peace with your body and like who you are.
Welcome back, everybody. We're having a great conversation about health and wellness and really what we put into our bodies and what difference it makes in our bodies. We need a lot of things for our body to digest, for us to have energy, for us to accomplish the things we want to accomplish. I think food can often be looked at as something that we're an enemy to rather than a friend to, that food can be our friend, that food can be nourishing to us. And I'm talking to Wade Lightheart. He was Mr. Universe. He's done a lot of bodybuilding, but he also is an amazing fitness coach, as well as has a company called BiOptimizers, where they really help people get the nutrients they need into their body so that the body can digest things in a proper way, so they have the energy, so they have the health, so they can live their best life. And I love that. Wade, before the break, I asked you if you would share with us just a couple of maybe your words of wisdom, tips that you would have for people who are saying, I don't know where to start. I don't really like vegetables. I don't know what to do but I want to change my health. I want my health to improve.
Great. So happy to do that. So there's a couple things first. I think if you can develop a mindfulness practice, that's a good start. In other words, there's so many, I got into meditation about 20 years ago. It made a radical difference in my life. Now, not everybody is comfortable meditating traditionally, but you can go through guided meditations. You can go through breath work, just learning to work with your breath. Breathing is something that we do both consciously and unconsciously, and that changes your heart rhythm. It changes your brain wave patterns. It's the quickest way to get out of one habit and into another through breath. So I would cultivate that first, because that will allow you to actually step back from yourself and observe yourself and see how you feel that you can't change or you don't like something, but you're just selling yourself a limiting belief in a story that's actually not true. But what sure feels like it unless you develop a mindfulness practice. Second phase, I think that I see people get the most benefit is drink 3 to 6 liters of water every single day. Most times people eat not because they're hungry, but because they're dehydrated. And dehydration is the number one source of digestive issues there is. It's also an easy way to clear up your skin. So move away from soft drinks and sports drinks and all the other things and drink pure water. The better the water that you drink, the better it's for you. I've tested over 150 different types of water from every machines and lights and rays and frequencies and filters and everything you imagine. And I will answer that question really importantly. Water is a great mystery. It has 440,000 information panels. The reason you know your keys or can remember who your kids are or feel the emotions you feel is because of the storage power of water. And the reality is we are just bags of water. And it's ironic that we drink all of these liquids that actually dehydrate us and not us. So things like, coffees and sodas and things like that actually accelerate dehydration. I'm not saying that those are all bad, but make sure you get your 3 to 6 liters of water a day. And oftentimes you'll start at 3. And when you get into it, you start to notice you want more and more water. So we've actually turned off our thirst mechanisms. Third thing is get into daily exercise. You know, at the turn of the century, the World Health Organization recommended that everybody walk 20 miles a day. That was a general recommendation because people back then walked 20 miles a day. It was normal to walk there. We're talking about the time of horses. And so you walked everywhere. You had to take your horse or whatever. So what we've done is we have sped life up so much that we're in a rush to get everywhere. We're in a hurry to get everywhere. And it's like, you know what? Take time to walk. Spend 30 to 60 minutes walking every day. Do it with your partner. Do it with a friend. Connect with your humanity again. We do well we're in proximity, a physical proximity with people. The digital age is wonderful. I love that we can share online and spread information. But let's not lose our humanity, because when you get that person-to-person contact, it activates us socially. It activates us emotionally. It makes us feel good about it. Think about your best friend, the one that you tell all your deep, dark secrets and skeletons to. How do you feel when you spend time with them? How does it feel when you hear their stories and they share yours? You go home and you feel good about yourself. And if you don't have those people in your life, oftentimes you feel down. So again, that's one of the environmental errors. We are social creatures. We've survived through our social ability. Humans, if you compare us to other species, we don't have claws. We don't have fangs. We don't have all these things. But what humans have that other species don't have is we work together better than any other species on the planet. And because of that, even though we're digitally connected and we get these surface connections, we need that physical, real world touch, connection, and communication. Those 3 things don't actually cost you anything. And that will start paving you the way. Just by doing those simple things, you're going to start to see a difference in your life. And then what happens, you move from disempowered to empowered. And generally what happens then is like, you know what? I'm going to give Camille a call because I'm ready to make the change in my life, because you're operating from a position that I can do it. And that's all you need is get that momentum going in the right direction, and then get the coaching, get the guidance that are going to get you specific so you can accelerate the results much faster. My life changed when I got a coach. And for those listening, your life will change when you get a coach, especially if you're around an environment where people aren't supportive, or you're in conditions that people don't get it or don't understand, or you don't have time. That is exactly why you need a coach.
I love this. This is all so powerful and amazing. Mindfulness practice, that's what I teach people, and breathing, water, getting enough water, daily exercise. And then we're tribal. We're a part of a tribe. We're meant to be connected. We're meant to be together. Thank you so much for sharing with us today and helping us to learn a little bit more about how we can better take care of our mind and our body. Just eating the things that will help our body digest and feel better, and hopefully go into the new year feeling energy and excitement about taking care of our health and well-being. If people want to know what you're doing and get to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, they can reach out to us at BiOptimizers.com. Again, if they want the course, it's BiOptimizers.com/wellness. You can reach us on phone, email, social media, whatever. Everything goes through my customer service. They filter all the questions over to me, and I'm happy to answer that and reach out, because we're on a mission to end physical suffering and to activate awesome health. And if you want to have a better life, a healthier life, feel free to reach out. We'll be happy to help you. It's we love doing it, and I never get tired of reading those testimonials every Monday to our team.
Thank you so much. Everybody, I hope that you listen to this, and that as you connect to your body, you can make peace with your body and like who you are by taking some of these concepts into your life. Take care, everybody. Have a great first week of December.